I've been on the Glenn Beck several times, Glenn Beck show, both radio and television, as well as Neil Cavuto, talking about healthcare. I think with healthcare, we have to ask the primary question: is the problem in healthcare too much government or too little government? Too much capitalism or too little capitalism? Everybody in Washington, all the Democrats and some of the Republicans, think that the problem is capitalism has failed, so we have to have more government. I argue that we haven't yet tried capitalism in medicine. I'm in medicine. I own my practice. I'm private ownership, so that's part of capitalism. But the other part of capitalism is you have to have freely fluctuating prices and competition. There's absolutely no competition in what I do. If you double the amount of doctors next year, the price of medicine is the same. Because over half of what I do is the prices are fixed by government. If you're over 65 and you come to me for cataract surgery, I charge the same as anybody in Shelbyville because it's fixed by law. But if you come to me and you're Blue Cross or Humana and have cataract surgery, still the price is somewhat fixed because everybody in Shelbyville, if you have 5 ophthalmologists up here, they all charge the same thing because they've made an agreement. There is no price competition. So that's why it doesn't work. It's broken because of lack of competition and lack of capitalism. Now people say, oh, you can't go in and negotiate for your heart attack, you can't do that. But there are a lot of things you can do. 95% of healthcare is elective. There are 2 things that I do that people pay primarily cash for and have no insurance for, and the price has gone down every year for 10 years. LASIK surgery, which is pretty expensive, but still the price has gone down every year for 10 years, and contact lenses. And I compete directly with Walmart. I know exactly what Walmart charges, and I've got to be competitive or none of my patients will buy them from me. And that's the way the marketplace works. But it's very cheap. You can get a contact lens from me for $4. You know, I mean, it's incredibly cheap because competition works. You can go to Walmart and get a cell phone for $14. Competition works. But we have to say, what is the opposite side? The Democrats say, let's have the government take over healthcare. What I tell people is imagine the head of FEMA in charge of healthcare. Imagine how good a job they did distributing water bottles at the Superdome during Katrina. Government is inept. FEMA gave money to people who were in prison who said that they'd been dislocated because of the hurricane. You just can't imagine that government at that level can be efficient. So I think what we have to do with healthcare is we have to bring competition and capitalism to it. The one other quick example I'll say with healthcare is that we need to make healthcare or insurance more like term life insurance and less like what it is now. If I have a heart attack tonight and survive, my insurance could triple next year because I have a 1-year contract with my health insurance company. There's nothing to keep them from tripling my rates. But with my term life insurance, if I have a heart attack and survive, my rate doesn't change because I have a 20-year contract. We need health insurance that has multi-year contracts with higher deductibles. People say, oh, I don't want to pay more. The more you pay when you actually go to the doctor, the less you'll pay in premiums. And it's a pretty simple thing. I do it in my practice, and it was amazingly different. I had 2 employees I brought when I used to work for a big multi-specialty clinic. We paid $12,000 a year in insurance. Well, I gave them the choice of coming or staying. They came with me, and I gave them a $2,000 raise, and I told them I'll pay all of your premiums. They were paying $2,000 in premiums, but I said you're going to have a $1,500 deductible instead of a $10 copay. But they got more money by doing this, and it worked, and I saved $4,000 or $5,000 on their insurance. They made $4,000 or $5,000 more, and they have to be responsible now for their account. But it works. It works at all levels. People say, only the rich can do it. It works at every economic level, and instead of having $800 a month premiums, you have $800 a year type of premiums if you can get to a high enough deductible level. There are ways we can fix healthcare without going to more government. With regard to a few other things that have been out there, I've been traveling a lot around Kentucky, and I've learned a lot about the coal industry. I've been to Hazard and Harlan, and I'm going back to Pikeville in a month. What I've learned is Eastern Kentucky is very dependent on the coal industry, and that cap and trade would emasculate, if not starve, the coal industry. But you know what? Even if we had no coal industry, and even if you have no connection to coal here, it's a disaster for the consumer. If you pass cap and trade, some estimates as high as, some start at $500 a year for families, some say it could be $1,000 or $2,000 a year increase to everyone's utility bill. So it's a disaster for everyone. And that's something that's a stark contrast between us and the Democrats. With regard to what we do to change things, I think it's the year of the outsider. I'm the non-politician. I'm the non-career politician. I'm a small businessman. I think that the things that infuriate people, not just Republicans, but that infuriate independents and conservative Democrats or moderates that will come to us, is just the idea that we have to do some reform. Term limits is very popular across party lines. So is the idea that they should read the bills before they pass them. Oh, yeah. When they passed the bank bailout bill, it was 1,100 pages long. They finished printing it at midnight, and it passed by noon the next day. We used to argue as Republicans over how much regulation. Some of us believed in almost no regulation in the marketplace. Some of us may have believed in a little bit more. But we never even conceived that we as Republicans believed in government ownership. The bank bailout came down the pike, and they, for the first time in our history, have significant government ownership of private enterprise. The Republican platform says we don't believe in bailing out private businesses at all. It's just part of our platform. But we definitely don't believe in government ownership of business. And yet, half of your Republican leadership voted for the bank bailout. That's where I'm different. I'm not afraid to stand up and say that. And people say, oh, that could be divisive. Republicans may not like you for saying that. The Republican Party is what we make of it. It's an empty vessel unless we imbue the party with values. If we don't believe in anything, it's not worth being here tonight. We have to believe in something. The platform is good. The platform says we don't believe in government ownership of private enterprise. You have to elect people who will stand by their word, who will stand by the platform, and will be true and honest in trying to reform things. I promise you, if you support me, I will not go back on my word. The first bill I will introduce will be term limits. The second bill I will introduce will be a balanced budget amendment. And for every appropriations bill, I will amend it to balance the budget. And these are not easy things. There are many Republicans who voted for all of the budgets that came out of the last, it's not just the last year, it's the last 10 years. So I am different in that sense, and you will get exactly what I tell you. But the thing is we have to decide our direction as a party, and I think this is a good year to do it. It's going to be a very good year for Republicans. My prediction is whoever wins the primary in our race will win. But we have to decide what is the direction we're going to take with our party, and I hope you will consider supporting me in the primary. Thank you for having me.